Welcome, everyone. My name is Yaphet Tedla. This is the last Mind, Hand, and Heart series of the calendar year. And we'll be joined by about her time at Sloan. Hey, Mariama.
Hi, hello.
How are you? We are now online at the Sloan admissions page.
Yeah.
You are
Good to be here.
Good to be here. Thank you again for making time. I know it's the midst of finals week, final project, so there's a lot going on here on campus. So we're really thankful that you can make your time here to share your experience.
It's my pleasure. I'm not alone. My pup is right next to me.
Oh, yeah. You just got the puppy as well, right?
I did.
How old are they?
A year and maybe 2 months now.
Okay, that's awesome.
Little baby.
You have to bring them to campus.
I know, I do. I think he's calm enough-ish now to be able to be around a lot of people.
Awesome. That's great. Well, Mariama, for those who don't know, Mariama and I were in the same ocean, which we'll talk about as we go through the interview. So I've known her since day one, and we've been a part of many clubs and trips. So she's become a really dear friend over the past year and a half at Sloan. So maybe for those who don't know you as well as I do, can you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to Sloan?
Yeah. So hello, everyone. My name is Mariama N'Diaye. I'm from New York City, born and raised in Harlem, which is very much so a deep part of my identity. I'm Senegalese American, so born from two Senegalese immigrant parents who've lived in America for 30 years. They're back in Senegal now. Yeah. And so here in the States, it's me and my sisters. I went to undergrad at Williams College, so very small liberal arts college space, and studied comparative politics with a focus on international relations. Loved it, was constantly asking about how things can be done differently, specifically in the government arena. So after my time at Williams, I spent most of my career at Bloomberg Associates, which is a consulting team within the Bloomberg Philanthropies Foundation. We worked with cities all around the world, and I worked on social service issues like creating the first homeless count in Paris, streamlining support for immigrants who were coming into the city of Milan, working nationally on the My Brother's Keeper initiative, President Obama. So I had a great time. And after that, decided to do a Fulbright research scholarship program in Milan, Italy, where I was working to understand how different city agencies were supporting immigrant communities, specifically through the lens of human-centered design. And so I joined MIT right after that as a master's in city planning, an MBA dual degree, and so I'm in my last year now. And I've been trying to bridge the worlds of how do we do government better and how do we do private sector world better. And it's been a fun journey thus far.
No, that's awesome. And I think it's so incredible to have the dualies, as we call them, as part of the Sloan community. As they, to your point, they're able to approach some of the things in the cases that we read from such a different angle. So it's added so much layer and context to some of these topics that we're in. Maybe just piggybacking off of that, I know a lot of students are getting ready for their round 2 application, which I had to look up. It's due January 17th.
It's right.
It's right around the corner. So I know you first were in the DEFS program, and then you chose to apply to Sloan. If you can go back in time a couple of years now, can you kind of walk us through how you decided that an MBA would be, an MBA at Sloan in particular would be an added value, and how did you kind of approach the application? And for those who may be interested on the journey that you want to take, if you can enlighten some wisdom or thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I actually applied for Sloan during my Fulbright. And the reason there was that when I had gotten enrolled into the Master's in City Planning program, most of us had deferred because it was still during the height of COVID. And so during my Fulbright year is actually when I applied. And it's actually an interesting story. I had a mentor of mine who talked about how important it is to have a terminal degree. And so in the way that a master's in city planning, you could go and continue and get a PhD. You can, of course, do that with a master's or the business administration degree as well. But it does have a lot of value to have on your resume to say that I have this terminal degree, where most people don't continue after getting an MBA. Meanwhile, in city planning, it's a bit more common. And so the amount of access you get just by having that. Another element was that masters in city planning, some people don't even know what we do. So like, what are planners? What do they do? We debate it quite often amongst our community as well. And so to have a degree that's pretty easily understandable was also very important, to be able to kind of market oneself. And the last element is around the breadth that you get to be a part of. So having an MBA is really universal. You can enter the nonprofit space, social services, or even the private sector, small tech, big tech, etc. And so the breadth really, really widens up around like, what am I able to do afterwards? And so I'm constantly thinking of what is out there. And so to know that I could do anything is really important. The reason why I applied is that I started looking at the amazing courses that are at the Master's City Planning program, but realized that I wanted to take very specific courses around like product design or human-centered design. And it's not, planners are known for not doing that well. Yeah. And so I wanted to come to a degree in a place where that is a focus, where user research is like actively a part of the conversations and how it's done. And realizing that all of these fields, a lot of these things are very transversal. And so was knowing that like, even though the topic will be different, the approach might actually be not as different as well. So those reasons why I decided to apply.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think in terms of the application itself, I know the Sloan application is unique. And there's a lot of folks right now who are listening to this currently or will be listening later who will be putting together the application for round 2. Yeah. How did you approach the cover letter? I know it's very short and tight. Yeah. There's a video element where it allows you to be creative and kind of bring your full self. And a couple of those elements in the application. So how did you approach that? You were in your Fulbright, so you were in another country, asked in a different time zone. If I remember correctly, you were in Europe. So how did you kind of like manage through that, and how did you think through it?
Yeah, I applied to a lot of things, clearly, with all these different. And I think I've learned to always have like a team of readers and everything that I do. Both people that are familiar with the process and those that aren't. So with the Fulbright, you really have to have a team to support you in your writing. And so I had 5 people that read every review. And I did the same thing with Sloan. Yeah. And so there are people who, the minute a version was done, I was able to send it to them. I speak in lengths because in planners, we talk a lot. Academics, like we will go on. So the cover letter was the hardest part for me. Having to make it as succinct as possible. But because I think I started with 3 pages. In part because I wanted to dump everything in. And then based off my conversation, start to weed out what was the most important. And then from there, made it into 1 page. So I thought it was really important in terms of the process to start with everything instead of just trying to create like a first version draft. And then seeing like what really sticks out to people, especially those who had gone to Sloan before, and then narrowing it down from there. Like, oh, this part is really interesting. Dive into this, because you really have only 3 things you can really talk about in that time. And I had just finished a very intense application process with DUSP as well. Yeah. This was kind of refreshing because DUSP was much longer. Yeah, the video I loved. And
you're the first one to say that. I think so many people are nervous.
Really?
So I love this energy. Yes,
I loved it because I thought, and I think it is the case.
It is, yeah.
The purpose is to showcase who you are as a human being.
Yeah.
So this is not the place to be fake or to pretend that you're someone that you're not.
Yeah.
And so what you a cover letter is such a short amount of time to describe who you are, and the video was a way to kind of showcase my personality, my energy. In that type of form, and then you're making a video to your classmates. So I took it very seriously. I was like, "Hello, X person." I think I made a name for this person too. Like I was talking to, but I wanted to say like if I was to introduce myself to a classmate, like how would I do it? Yeah. In the least obnoxious way. And so I really enjoyed the video. The cover letters took me longer to do.
Yeah, and I think during orientation they joked around that they would show all of ours.
Right. They should have. I would watch the whole thing for everyone.
We'll walk back in memory. No, that's true. And this is incredible in terms of like kind of how you thought about the application. But would love to kind of just like ask a few questions about your time at Sloan. knowing you, you have your hands in many pots. You have co-founded a club on campus. I'll let you speak to that. You're actively involved in a few clubs that I'm also a member of. But you also on the side are helping run a startup as a chief of staff. And so tell us a little bit about those things and kind of why did you choose to get involved? How do you manage your time in terms of academics? I know you're very studious as well in the classes that we've attended together, as well as your social life. So maybe more importantly, kind of what motivated you to get involved in things that you got involved, and kind of how are you navigating your time at Sloan?
Yeah, so I'll start with just a caveat. As Yaphet has mentioned, I'm chief of staff of Colé, which is a beauty company for melanin-rich skin. We're a team of about 14 now. And so it's basically, it is a full-time job at this point. I started during my Fulbright. Right, yeah. I started during my Fulbright. Yeah. And then to be fair, at the time I had a lot more time because I was doing my own independent research in a more operational role. And then when I joined school, it was like, it doesn't really make sense to be deep in the weeds of operational challenges. I'd rather think systemic and strategic. The one thing I will say is that it's really tough and not recommended to be working while in school, which I totally understand. I will also note, though, that there are certain skills that you're learning every day at Sloan, whether it's in the strategy class or entrepreneurial sales, in corporate finance, that I directly applied to my job literally the next day. So it's really unique to be able to do that kind of full circle. So at the same time, though, when you walk into Sloan, there are 1,000 things you can be involved in, 1,000 events. It is a lot. And so the way I decided to approach is that generally I actually just don't have as much time as some of my other classmates might have. Because I do work. I know there's classmates of ours who also have children, and that's 200% of a full-time job more than the rest of us. So I don't know how they do it. Yeah. So I know for me, there's a few things. Like one is having very clear understanding early on of what I hope to get out of this space. And so for me, I came to grad school to really get deep into the use of design in the public sector, to be specific. And then I've been applying it to the private sector as well, obviously working at a startup in the private sector. And so I was looking around campus and I couldn't identify, specifically at Sloan, design spaces. And so when I say design, I mean human-centered design, design thinking, community-centered design. And so from there, funnily enough, last Thanksgiving, I met my co-founder, Jenny Kang. Yeah. And we were at some dumpling event in some on-campus housing. Yeah. And we started talking and design came up and we're like, oh my goodness, like we have so much alignment. We should bring it to campus. Yeah. And so from there, we brought it to campus that spring and now it's evolved to be what it is, which has been pretty incredible to run. But because I'm so passionate about what we're doing, it's like a worthful time at Sloan, and it's been transformative. Like, when you're in it and you love it. Yeah. That's the one thing, when you're in it and you love it. And at Sloan, there are some times where you're in it and you're not loving it. And you're like, why am I here? Yeah. And so that question is critical. So literally walking through campus, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now because I love it? And I ask myself that literally every day. Yeah. If that means me staying in the cafeteria for an hour longer just to hang out with people, great. If that means that I'm doing that and I don't know why I'm doing it, I need to leave. So that's my way of taking advantage, getting involved in things I'm genuinely passionate about, meeting people. My priority in the fall during the core semester was to meet a lot of folks or get really close with my ocean. And then after that was focused on meeting a breadth of people who were particularly interested in things that I was interested in. So through clubs and through events in that space. But it's difficult. No, and I think it seems like you did find that. Like there's a group of design individuals, and you guys put on an awesome event. I wish I attended. Knitting. You guys knitted pillowcases, if I remember correctly. We sewed pillowcases. Yeah. And that's the main thing. That's with all of us and how you delegate work is that no one should be the steward of anything. So I plan events, other people plan events, even though I'm co-president, co-founder. We're like actively trying to uplift and support our entire team, which makes the work much easier too. No. Yes, it was great. Yeah. The other thing I did want to ask you before we shift is
You're also a Morningside Academy for Design Fellow.
Yeah.
And I think this is the second year that it's been running, or the third year, if I remember correctly.
Second. Mm-hmm.
And our close friend Kyle is also the inaugural fellow, if I remember correctly, as well. So can you tell everyone what that is, what that entails, and how you were able to use that platform to kind of continue on your design journey?
Absolutely. So Kyle and I were the inaugural Morningside Academy for Design fellows last year. The first group, we're the only Sloanies in the group. Now I think there's one or two who are Sloanies every year. So the context is Morningside Academy for Design is or otherwise known as MAD, which I think was purposeful in the way they structured that, is a MIT-wide initiative to increase the space and use of design as an approach across all of the institution, whether you're in a business program or engineering or even in the arts. And the context there is that mainly for undergrads, a lot of their work are P-sets, right? We create P-sets no matter where you are. And the idea is that how do we embed like user research, human-centered design into the way we create things? Because MIT is a place of creating constantly. And how do we do that with people that we're creating for at top of mind is really the idea behind it. Obviously, there's the D School at Stanford, and we're trying to be the next version of that in our own MIT way. And so MAD provides students with a year of their tuition covered, and then they also provide a monthly stipend, and then you get a play money in a way where you can really use it for anything related to your topics. Let's say, for example, you wanted to skill up on something or go to a conference. There's a budget for that specifically. I was partnered with GovLab through the governance lab within the Department of Political Science. And we were working on creating a lean governance innovation design methodology that we basically can teach government practitioners, mainly in Sierra Leone, Nigeria, as we were focused on around human-centered design and how it can apply to their work as government practitioners. So I spent all of January last year in Sierra Leone doing user research specifically on this topic. And it was incredible. Matt is a huge, it's the most fascinating people you will ever meet at MIT who are touching every element across the institution. We're all graduate students. And so the money was absolutely fantastic, of course, but the network was so much better. And now they'll continue to support and elevate. Right now I'm going to do an independent study this spring. And one of the co-founders of MAD is going to be my professor for it. And so there's a constant loop. The last thing I'll mention on that is that I feel like being a part of MAD validated a lot of what I was thinking. And it's also a part of being at school for 3 years. You have a little bit more time to get clarity on what you actually want to do.
Yeah.
So before I knew I was passionate about it, but now it's like I am a designer. I'm like a part of this universe. I know it's a passion of mine. I want to be able to fully run with it with authority that I feel like, before imposter syndrome is very real. I think that's probably also like the most important lesson of just the amount of clarity you get when you just have the freedom to not have to work and the network to push you and the community to push you and the mentors who are there who can help guide you as well, which is so unique. And to get to hang out with people from across the institution, which is very rare at Sloan.
No. And I think there's a thing about where you find energy from the things that you're doing instead of things taking away energy.
Exactly.
You've really found the spot to be able to kind of throw yourself into something that's continually fueling your curiosity and your intellectual curiosity.
Exactly.
I want to, we're almost going to be at time in the next 10 minutes. So I want to ask for those that are listening here, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A. So I'll try to get through one or two of them if they come in time. So you can just put that in the comment or in the question in the Q&A button on Instagram. In terms of the last couple of questions I want to ask you, Mariama, is I think there's so many places at Sloan, whether it's our Ocean, our club, affinity clubs, as well as like professional oriented clubs like the Design Club. We'd love for you to maybe just highlight one or two places that's really made you feel at home. I know you've been here now. This is now your third year. So you've had the opportunity to explore many of these pockets. But, what are those places at Sloan that really kind of gives you comfort at a place you call home?
Oh, hi,
other than place with your puppy, other than the puppy, I guess.
Other than where?
Other than your puppy, like hanging out with your puppy.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. No, it's a really good question. Place you feel at home. I shouldn't say this, but I will. A part of it is the cafeteria. I love seeing people and strolling around, and because I tend to be quite busy and people perceive me as being quite busy, they don't necessarily reach out normally.
Yeah.
And I feel like the cafeteria is the one place where I can really see people and be in the space. I wish I got to spend more time there this semester. Usually I have calls like right before class starts, so I can't eat and like be calm. But I wish I could. But I really enjoy the caf. Being at Sloan specifically. The funny thing is, I think I'm legendary for just staying in cast all day, because even at dusk we have a lounge, and I would work from the lounge like 12 hours a day every day, even if I had like work calls during my first year. So I think places where people congregate matter a lot to me, and to be able to be a part of community in a large space. There are some classes where I feel really at home. One was Organizations Lab. It's an action learning lab course at MIT Sloan, focused mainly on like organizational design and management. And I loved it because the group was really diverse from across all different institutions. And we're talking a lot about how do we organizational design things. So I love all of that. And also around focus on like systemic racism and the way that it shapes the way cities operate, and like what does it mean for us to support nonprofits. And so I really, really, really enjoyed that class. I'm trying to think of other ones that I feel at home. And so, of course, like the clubs I'm part of, I'm a VP of events with Africa Business Club. I feel at home when we're just hanging out. We have like a community events that we're all together. It's intimate, it's small. I'm really big on intimate, small environments, not large gatherings.
Yeah.
And so that was great. The design club, every event that we throw, because it's just so much intentionality about experience, about enjoyment, about aha moments, about just like a level of softness and level of intentionality that you don't normally see at Sloan, where we're just running and running and running. So anywhere where I can take a pause, anywhere where I can be vulnerable, those are moments that I really, really appreciated at Sloan.
No, that's wonderful. I also resonate with the cafe. Even if I don't have time, sometimes I do walk by.
Right.
It's really fun seeing people you haven't seen for a while.
Exactly.
And it's a great, I don't know how to describe it. It's a great place that like different atoms or like different particles are just kind of colliding.
Yes.
So you often find the most interesting conversations or catch up with your friends that you haven't seen for a while. So it's going to be really sad leaving that behind next year.
But so we're going back to the real world.
Yeah, I'm going to
people don't hang out the same place every day.
Exactly. The last question I've always asked my interviewers is just really around, the series is called Mind, Hand, and Heart, right? So we're kind of getting to that part of this discussion. So we'd love for you to kind of reflect a little bit on something that's been on your heart recently. This could be anything that you want to share to the public, but just something that's really kind of, meant a lot to you, and kind of something that's occupied part of your heart.
Oh my goodness. So much has occupied my heart.
The puppy has to be a big one, I think.
Well, yes, in a positive way, absolutely.
Positive way.
I realize how it's very real when they say that like dogs can make your life so much happier. Although they are a lot of work at the same time. So I've always been politically bended and oriented. So anytime when there's like major disasters or wars in the world, it always affects me deeply. And so on my heart has been all the turmoil we're seeing around the world has been really exhausting. And it's hard to just walk through the world in days to focus on like deliverables and in the midst of like turmoil. It feels very odd to me, but that's just the way our world is structured. Positively, I feel very surrounded by love at all times. I have a very, very, very forgiving and caring and rock of a partner who is like not in the Sloan world and is working. And so to have someone who can be supportive and reasonable and just kind and like always there for me is something that I am just so grateful for. Yeah, that's what's on my heart right now.
No, that's awesome. I think I'm gonna just quickly check to see if there have been any podcasts that have been enamored by this discussion. So, but maybe if there's any other, I think I saw one earlier, but
okay. I know Asha's in here.
I know I saw Asha as well, but I think it seems like we might have covered a lot of the topics discussed. So Mariama, I just want to say thank you so much for hopping on and being my last interviewer for the calendar year. We'll pick this up in the new calendar year once we get through finals and
almost there.
Almost there. And but have a wonderful day, and again, thank you.
Of course, and good luck to everyone applying.
Yeah, good luck everyone.